The distress call was sent again. High above a burning blue planet, a damaged satellite pushed out the same message for the 1,000th time. Its power was low, its systems were failing, but it continued its duty, repeating the signal into the cold darkness of space. This is the world of Caleth Prime. We are under attack. We ask for help. Anyone, please. The message traveled faster than light, spreading across star systems, passing through space lanes, relays, and ancient communication networks built by 100 different species. It reached empires that ruled thousands of worlds. It reached peaceful unions and powerful federations. It reached those who claimed to stand for justice, and one by one it was ignored. Some civilizations received the call and marked it as not our concern. Others looked at the center's location and quietly erased the signal. A few leaders listened to the message, watched the burning cities, and then turned away. The attackers were too strong. Helping would cost too much. Caleth Prime was not important enough to start a war. On the surface of the planet, the sky was no longer blue. Thick black smoke covered the air as enemy ships moved freely above the cities. Their weapons burned through buildings as if they were made of paper. Defense stations were destroyed within hours. The planetary shield failed on the first day. Caleth Prime had known peace for centuries. They had no great fleets, no powerful allies. They believed the galaxy would protect them because they followed every rule. They traded fairly. They never attacked anyone. They trusted the system. That trust was now dying with them. In a broken command center, Governor Selin watched the latest reports arrive. Another city lost. Another evacuation failed. Another million dead. How many responses? Selin asked quietly. The communications officer did not look up. None, she said. No replies. No warnings. No signals. Selin closed his eyes. The galaxy was listening. He knew that. The call had reached too many systems for it to be missed. Silence was not failure. Silence was a choice. Outside, the ground shook as another orbital strike hit nearby. The enemy had begun their final push. Soon there would be nothing left to save. Still, the distress call continued. Far away, across the stars, the message reached places older than Caleth Prime itself. An ancient empire received the signal and laughed. Not our problem, they said. A wealthy trade league saw the risk and cut the channel. Bad for business. A powerful military alliance reviewed the threat and voted. The result was clear. Intervention denied. The call was archived, labeled as a lost cause. The galaxy moved on. But the signal did not stop. It crossed empty regions of space where no flags were planted. It passed through dark zones where old wars had erased everything. It weakened with every jump, losing clarity, losing strength. At last, it reached a small listening station on the edge of explored space. The station was not impressive. It was old. Its paint was faded and its systems were outdated. It existed only to listen. Most days, it heard nothing but background noise and distant stars. A human operator sat alone, watching dull screens. Then one signal appeared. At first, he thought it was interference. The message was broken, filled with static and gaps, but it repeated, again and again. This is Caleth Prime, under attack, asking for help. The operator leaned forward. He listened in silence as images slowly formed on the screen. Burning cities, falling towers, running civilians, children hiding in the ruins. He did not speak. He did not shut it off. He forwarded the signal. The message traveled inward, deeper into human-controlled space. It passed through secure channels. It reached analysts, then commanders, then people who did not often receive messages like this. No reply was sent back. Not yet. On Caleth Prime, days passed. The enemy tightened their grip. Resistance was crushed. Hope faded. Governor Salon stood on a balcony overlooking the last standing city. Fires burned in every direction. The sound of explosions never stopped. Turn off the signal, one advisor said softly. There is no point anymore. Salon shook his head. As long as we breathe, we ask. The advisor said nothing more. The distress call continued, weaker now. but still alive. Deep in human space, something changed. Doors that had not opened in decades unlocked. Lights turned on in forgotten places. Massive structures hidden in asteroids and dark orbits came to life. No announcements were made. No warnings were sent to the galaxy. In silence, enormous shapes began to move. On Caleth Prime, the enemy prepared for the final strike. Their fleet gathered in orbit, confident and calm. They had done this many times before. The galaxy never interfered. No one ever came. The defenders waited for death. Then, sensors picked up something new. Unknown signatures. Massive energy readings. Not matching any known power, panic spread through both sides. More enemies? Someone whispered. No, another said. These ships are different. From the darkness of space, shapes emerged. Huge, armored and silent. They did not broadcast threats. They did not identify themselves. They simply arrived. Governor Salon stared at the sky as unfamiliar stars appeared where nothing had been before. The distress call finally stopped. Not because the planet had fallen, but because at last someone had heard it. The galaxy had stayed silent. But humanity had been listening. The ships did not attack. They only waited. From the surface of Caleth Prime, the sky was filled with shapes no one recognized. Massive warships sat in perfect formation, dark and silent. They did not fire. They did not speak. They simply existed, like steel giants watching the battlefield. The invading fleet hesitated. Their commanders had never seen ships like these. No known empire used designs so heavy, so old, and yet so powerful. Long-range scans returned confusing results. The armor was layered in ways that made no sense. The energy readings were controlled, precise, and frightening. Identify yourselves? The enemy commanded over open channels. There was no answer. Minutes passed. Then one human ship sent a simple signal, not words, not threats. Just a marker that translated across all known languages. Civilian evacuation in progress. Do not interfere. On Caleth Prime, confusion spread. Who are they? Governor Salin asked. No known registry, an officer replied, but they're positioning themselves between us and the enemy. Human transport ships descended through the smoke-filled sky. They were smaller, fast, and heavily shielded. They landed in ruined cities near shelters and broken hospitals. Human soldiers stepped out. They wore simple armor, no symbols of empire, no banners, just calm faces behind visors. They moved quickly, guiding civilians, lifting rubble, carrying the wounded. They did not ask questions. They did not demand loyalty. They only helped. For many on Caleth Prime, this was the first time in weeks that fear loosened its grip. Above them, the enemy fleet grew nervous. This was not part of the calculation, one commander said. Identify their origin. Data poured in from across the galaxy. No records matched. No alliances claimed responsibility. Then a warning arrived from a distant trade network. They are human. The room went silent. Humans? The commander asked. From the fringe species? Yes, the report confirmed. From Earth. Laughter followed. Humans are weak, another officer said. They have no major empire, no history of galactic conquest. But the laughter faded as more data arrived. Old data. Buried data. Stories no one paid attention to. Human wars. Human survival. Human refusal to surrender. The enemy commander frowned. Then why are they here? On Earth, far from Caleth Prime, the decision had already been made days earlier. In a secure chamber beneath the planet's surface, human leaders watched the final moments of the distress message. The room was silent when the recording ended. No one spoke at first, then one voice broke the silence. How many ignored it? All of them, an analyst replied. Every major power. A quiet anger filled the room. Humans remembered this feeling. Being ignored. Being told survival was their own problem. Being left alone when help could have mattered. They did not forget such things. Activate the fleet. The order was given. No vote, no debate. Humanity did not need permission to do what was right. Back above Caleth Prime, the enemy fleet repositioned, weapons powered up, targeting systems locked onto the human ships. "This is your final warning," the enemy commander broadcast. "Withdraw, or be destroyed." At last, the humans replied. The signal was calm, clear, almost gentle. "This system is under human protection," the voice said. "Leave, now." The enemy commander laughed again, louder this time. "You protect a world you do not own," he mocked. "You risk war for strangers?" The reply came instantly. "Yes." The first shot was not fired by humans. The enemy opened fire. Beams of energy slammed into the human front line. Explosions lit up space. But when the smoke cleared, the human ships were still there. Shields held. Armor absorbed the damage. Human ships did not move. That was when fear truly began. "Return fire," the human commander said quietly. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Human weapons did not scream. They did not flash wildly. They struck with purpose. Precision beams cut through enemy shields. Kinetic rounds tore through hulls. One ship vanished entirely, broken apart in seconds. The enemy fleet panicked. They had expected resistance. They had not expected superiority. On the ground, civilians looked up as enemy ships began to fall from the sky, burning as they crashed into the ocean or exploded harmlessly in orbit. Hope spread like fire. Governor Salon watched in disbelief. "They came," he whispered. After everyone else refused, they came. Human evacuation continued even as the battle raged. No civilian was left behind. Human medics worked without rest. Human soldiers stood between civilians and enemy forces without hesitation. They did not retreat. They did not falter. Above the planet, the enemy fleet broke formation. "This is not worth it," one commander shouted. "They are not stopping." Orders were given to retreat, but it was too late. Human ships closed in, cutting off escape routes. The message was clear now, not just to the enemy, but to the galaxy watching from afar. Humanity would not allow this. As the last enemy ship fled the system, silence returned, not the silence of abandonment, but the silence after a storm. Human ships remained in orbit. Human transports continued to move. Human signals broadcast across open channels. HFY arrived. And far away across the galaxy, civilizations that had ignored the call began to realize something terrible. They had stayed silent. Humanity had not. The galaxy noticed the silence. Not the silence of empty space, but the sudden quiet after the battle above Caleth Prime. The attacking Empire's ships were gone. Their signals had vanished. Trade routes near the system slowed as ships changed course, afraid to get too close. Everyone was watching now. Deep inside human space, the war was only beginning. Hidden far from common travel lanes, massive structures floated in darkness. Some were buried inside asteroids. Others rested near dead stars where no one bothered to look. These places had no lights for show, no signs of life for outsiders. But now they were waking up. Power flowed through ancient systems. Dock doors that had not moved in decades opened slowly. Dust drifted away as engines the size of cities came online. The human war fleet was awakening. These ships were not built for patrols or displays. They were not made to scare pirates or impress allies. They were designed for one purpose only: to end wars. On Caleth Prime, the humans did not celebrate. Their ships stayed in orbit, steady and calm. Engineers repaired damage without panic. Soldiers rotated shifts, guarding evacuation zones and shelters. Governor Salon stood inside a human command ship, watching the planet below through a wide viewing window. "You saved us," he said to the human commander beside him. The commander did not look proud. He did not smile. "We stopped the attack," he replied. "Saving you takes more time." Salon did not understand at first. Then the reports arrived. The attacking empire was moving again. Fleets were gathering at distant borders. Messages were sent to other powers. calling humanity reckless and dangerous. The galaxy was choosing sides. Human command channels lit up with data from across explored space, fleet movements, weapon activations, political threats. Some civilizations demanded explanations, others demanded apologies. Humanity offered neither. Instead, orders went out. Phase 2 authorized. Across human territory, the full fleet mobilized. Ships of every size moved into formation. Heavy carriers, long-range strike platforms, siege vessels never before seen outside classified files. To human civilians, this was not new. They had grown up knowing these ships existed, even if they had never seen them. Humanity remembered its past. They remembered how close extinction once came. They remembered how alone they had been. They had promised themselves never to be helpless again. On the border of the attacking empire, human ships arrived without warning. They did not cross into enemy space. They waited. The message they sent was short and clear. Withdraw from Caleth Prime. Stand down all hostile forces. The enemy rulers were furious. You have no authority here, they replied. You interfere in matters beyond your place. Humanity responded with silence. Then the fleet moved forward. Not fast, not aggressive, just enough to be understood. The enemy launched probes and scouts. None returned. Their scans showed human ships far outnumbering earlier estimates. Worse, their formations were perfect, disciplined, calm. Fear spread among their commanders. These humans did not rush. They advanced like something that knew it would win. At the same time, human diplomats sent messages across the galaxy. Not threats, not demands. Warnings. We will defend the helpless, the message said. If you stand in the way, we will treat you as part of a threat. Many ignored it. Some laughed. A few listened. Back on Caleth Prime, reconstruction began even as the threat grew. Human machines cleared rubble. Human engineers restored power grids. Children who had known only fear watched lights turn back on. For the first time since the invasion began, the planet slept. In orbit, human ships remained vigilant. Then the first shot of the wider war was fired. A distant human listening post was attacked. No warning. No message. The attackers believed they could send a signal without consequences. They were wrong. The response was immediate. Human strike fleets jumped across space in minutes. The attackers' ships were destroyed before they understood what had happened. No worlds were bombed, no civilians harmed, just a message left behind. Do not test us. That message spread faster than any distress call ever had. Civilizations that had ignored Caleth Prime now faced a terrible truth. Humanity was not asking to join the galactic order. Humanity was rewriting it. The attacking empire called an emergency council. Their leaders argued, shouted, blamed one another. This was a mistake, one finally said. We underestimated them. Yes, another replied. And now the galaxy is watching. Human fleets continued to move, cutting off supply lines, disabling military stations, isolating enemy worlds without firing on civilians. It was war, but not as the galaxy knew it. Humanity fought with control, with restraint, with purpose. On Caleth Prime, Governor Salon stood among rebuilding crews and looked up at the stars. He knew the war was far from over, but he also knew something else. The galaxy would never ignore a distress call the same way again. Because now, there was a species that listened. And when humanity listened, they answered with fleets. The enemy empire made its choice. They did not answer the warnings. They did not withdraw their forces. Instead, they gathered everything they had. Old ships were pulled from storage. New crews were rushed through training. Allies were promised rewards if they joined the fight. They believed numbers would win the war. They were wrong. Human sensors detected the buildup long before the first fleet moved. The data flowed calmly through human command networks. No panic followed. No rushed orders. Humanity had expected this. Across multiple systems, human fleets adjusted positions. Defensive lines formed around protected worlds. Strike groups moved quietly into flanking routes. Every movement had a reason. On Caleth Prime, the last evacuation ships lifted off. No civilian remained in danger. Human ground forces pulled back into orbit, leaving behind new defense platforms and automated shields. The planet was safe. Now, humanity could fight without restraint. The enemy's main fleet jumped into contested space with overwhelming force. Thousands of ships filled the void. Their commanders felt confident again. This was how wars were supposed to look. Mass against mass. They advanced toward the human line. The humans waited. When the enemy crossed the invisible boundary, human commanders gave a single order: engage. Space erupted. Human weapons struck first, but not wildly. Targeting systems focused on command ships, carriers, and power relays. In seconds, the enemy fleet lost coordination. Confusion spread, orders conflicted, signals jammed, ships collided as formations broke apart. Then the human fleet moved. Fast attack ships surged forward, slipping through gaps. Heavy ships followed, their weapons firing with slow, crushing power. Each shot destroyed exactly what it was meant to destroy. Enemy commanders shouted for regrouping. There was no time. Human boarding teams breached disabled ships. They did not slaughter. They captured control centers and shut systems down. Crews were restrained, not killed. The message was clear. This war was not about revenge. It was about ending the threat. As the battle continued, something unexpected happened. Enemy ships began to surrender. White signals appeared across space. Crews abandoned weapons and powered down engines. They had never seen a force fight like this. Human ships advanced without rage, without fear, without hesitation. It felt like facing a storm that had already decided the outcome. Across the galaxy, observers watched in disbelief. Military analysts replayed battle data again and again. Human losses were minimal. Enemy losses were devastating. And still, humanity pressed forward. The Empire's outer defenses collapsed within days. Shipyards were disabled. Weapon factories went dark. Supply lines vanished. But human fleets did not bomb cities. They did not attack civilians. Instead, broadcasts were sent to occupied worlds. Remain calm. Stay inside. This conflict is not with you. On one such world, a young alien family listened as human ships entered orbit. They expected destruction. It never came. Human forces disabled the military installations and left food shipments behind. Fear turned into confusion. Confusion turned into something more dangerous. Hope. Inside the Empire's capital system, panic took hold. Leaders argued. Generals blamed politicians. Politicians blamed the galaxy. How did this happen? One shouted. They were supposed to be weak. They are not weak, another replied. They are disciplined. The final defense fleet was assembled around the capital. Everything the Empire had left stood between humanity and their core worlds. The galaxy held its breath. Human fleets arrived in silence. They did not form a massive line. They surrounded the system completely, cutting off all escape. Communication jammers activated. The capital was isolated. Then a human message reached the rulers. You attacked the helpless, it said. This ends now. The rulers threatened destruction. They promised retaliation. They claimed the galaxy would punish humanity. Humanity did not argue. The fleet advanced. The final battle was short. Enemy weapons fired desperately. Human shields held. Precision strikes disabled reactors and command nodes. Within hours, the Empire's military power collapsed. Their fleet drifted powerless. Human ships did not fire again. A boarding vessel approached the capital station. The rulers were taken into custody. No execution, no celebration, just an ending. Across the galaxy, the message spread. The war was over. Humanity had won. But more importantly, the galaxy had learned something it would never forget. Ignoring suffering had consequences, and humanity was willing to enforce them. The war ended, but the galaxy did not celebrate. Trade lanes remained quiet. News networks replayed the same images again and again. Human fleets surrounding the enemy capital. Human ships standing untouched among the wreckage of a once feared empire. No one spoke loudly anymore. The civilizations that had ignored the original distress call watched in silence. Their leaders held emergency meetings behind closed doors. Some were afraid. Some felt shame. Most felt both. They had all made the same choice. They had all turned away. Now they understood the cost. Reports flowed in from every corner of known space. The attacking empire's military was gone, their weapons disabled, their leaders imprisoned, their worlds intact. Humanity had won without destroying a single civilian city. That frightened the galaxy more than total destruction ever could. On Caleth Prime, life slowly returned. Skies cleared, fires were put out, children stepped outside without fear for the first time since the invasion began. Human engineers worked beside local workers, rebuilding power stations and water systems. No flags were raised, no ownership claimed. Governor Salon met with the human commander one final time. "You could stay," Salon said. "You would be welcomed." The commander shook his head. "This world belongs to you. We were never here to rule." "Why help us?" Salon asked. "You gained nothing." The human paused before answering. "That's not true," he said. "We gained a reminder." Salon did not ask for clarification. Across the galaxy, reactions began to change. Some civilizations sent quiet apologies to Caleth Prime. Others sent trade offers. A few tried to contact humanity directly, hoping to learn where they now stood. Humanity answered selectively. "We are not judges," their message said, "but we are watching." Military academies across the galaxy rewrote their doctrines. Analysts studied human tactics with fear and respect. Philosophers debated what it meant when a species valued restraint more than conquest. One truth became clear. The galaxy had underestimated humans because they were quiet, because they did not boast, because they did not threaten. Silence, it turned out, was not weakness. In the ruins of the defeated empire, occupied worlds adjusted to a strange new reality. Human oversight teams ensured order but interfered as little as possible. Local governments were restored. Food and medical supplies arrived without demand. For many citizens, the humans were not conquerors. They were liberators. This terrified nearby powers even more. If humans could win wars without hatred, what else could they do? On Earth, there were no grand celebrations, no victory parades. People returned to their lives, knowing only that something important had happened far away. They trusted their leaders. They trusted their fleet. And they trusted their values. Back on Caleth Prime, a memorial was built, not for humans, but for those who had been lost. Human soldiers stood silently among the crowd, heads lowered. No speeches were made. No cameras recorded it. Far beyond the memorial, a new signal was prepared. Not a distress call, a warning. It was broadcast across the galaxy, using the same channels that had once carried Caleth Prime's plea for help. This time, everyone listened. The message was simple. When you hear suffering, answer. The galaxy stayed quiet after that, not because it did not care, but because it was thinking. Time passed. The galaxy adjusted. Trade resumed. Borders stabilized. Old empires weakened by fear became cautious. New alliances formed, built not on power alone, but on responsibility. Caleth Prime flourished again. Its cities were rebuilt stronger than before. Defensive systems stood ready, quietly maintained by human technology, but controlled by local hands. Human ships visited rarely, but they were always welcome. Stories spread from world to world, not exaggerated tales of destruction, but quiet truths. Humans came when no one else did. Humans left when the job was done. A new phrase entered galactic language, answered by humanity. It meant hope. For the defeated empire, judgment came slowly. Their leaders faced trial before a council that included species they had once crushed. Humanity did not dominate the process. They only ensured it happened. The rulers were not executed. They were forced to listen. To every distress call they had ignored. To every world they had destroyed. It was a punishment more fitting than death. On Earth, a human child listened to a history lesson about Caleth Prime. "Why didn't the others help?" the child asked. The teacher answered gently, "Because they were afraid." "Why weren't we?" the child asked. The teacher smiled sadly. Because we remember what it's like to be alone. The galaxy never forgot that war. From that day forward, distress calls were never ignored so easily. Someone always answered. Sometimes it was humans. Sometimes it was others, inspired by what humanity had done. The galaxy became better. Not perfect, but better. And deep in space, the human warfleet returned to its silent docks. Engines powered down, lights dimmed, listening, because one truth now echoed across the stars, stronger than any weapon. When the galaxy stays silent, humanity answers.